And there's so many stories of that in business where, wrong decisions, whatever it is, you hit that rock bottom, but then you use it to bounce up. But I think for me, I remember what happened. I was locked out of the house, like all the money was gone. It was so bad.
Seth Ferguson, how are you doing today, my friend? Wow, you're looking sharp. You got some high def camera action and brick wall going there. It's like I have a little bit of a studio and camera envy going on here, brother.
Oh yeah, it's just a 16 millimeter lens. It's not about the camera; it's about the lens.
Yes.
So the 16 millimeter makes me look good.
Yeah, it's the glass in front of the camera. So if you don't mind me talking a little tech, what camera are you running that 16 mil through?
Yeah, it's just a basic like Sony 6400.
Yep.
And we use Cam Link to put it into the laptop, and then we've got obviously like our lighting. I'm a little shiny right now, but it's because I'm sweating.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we've just got the really basic setup. But the 16 millimeter, once we switch to that, you get the nice bokeh effect in the background.
Yeah. Is it a Sigma 16 millimeter lens?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
F1
one and only.
F 1.4. Is it a 1.4 or 1.8?
I can't see right now. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's a little like above my pay grade. But I just was told which one to buy, and I bought it. So.
Well, I shudder to think about all the time I've tried to spend getting this live YouTube podcasting, all this kind of setup done. If I would have just spent more time buying more multifamily properties and more real estate, I shudder how many more doors I would have at this time.
I don't you can go down a rabbit hole with this kind of stuff because there's always more gear you can buy. There's always like a different way to do things.
Yeah.
I'm still learning. Like we're still learning and trying to figure this stuff out too.
Well, and I famous last words. If my wife is listening, she would her eyes would be rolling. As my famous last words is, "I'm done. I'm done set up. I've got everything I need. Nothing else. I don't need anything else." And then all of a sudden, Amazon comes to the door. Knock, knock, knock. Here's your next Rode Streamer X capture card with the XLR microphone in there. And I was just like, oh. Anyways. We're actually real estate investors from time to time too, aren't we, Seth?
Once in a while, besides podcasts, live streaming, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I know you're a crazy busy man. So first and foremost, how are you doing? You're like 30 days out from a giant conference that's upcoming, and I know you mentioned you were running around and you were sweating a little bit, but how are you feeling? First and foremost.
Stressed out. This is typical conference season. So anything 45 days and less gets pretty stressful. Like literally my schedule, Katie has me organized in 15-minute time blocks. And that starts first thing in the morning all the way into the evening. So every 15 minutes is accounted for. So I don't even... Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Well,
I'm blessed that we have some time for you and I to share here today. Yeah. And I do want to get into the conference a little bit. I hope you have some... It's funny because I was in the conference business, not from the part of the organizing, but mostly from the presenting and on stage and facilitation and teaching and all that kind of stuff. But I know what it's like, honest to goodness. I feel for you. I really do. And I'm excited for you, but I also feel for you. It's like the best analogy I use all the time is the follows. It's like planning a 3,000 person wedding while also writing your doctorate dissertation paper and applying for your PhD all at the same time.
I know what you mean. Yeah. And funny enough, we're actually planning a wedding and a conference at the same time. So
are you?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a sucker for punishment. And look at that. I'm going to just do a close up there for a second. Look at you, and you still got all your hair follicles. You're looking sharp there, my brother.
I do. It's just going gray. That's the only issue on the side.
Nice. Well, I do want to be respectful of your time, and I do have a few things that I wanted to chat about. But we connected a few years ago when you reached out, and I would remember down in the basement with the Toronto Maple Leaf pictures on the wall, and you were running some high tech stuff. You're in 4K cameras, and you were just doing some very high tech stuff there. Do you still do a lot of your videos and those kind of things for people to check out? We
ran the podcast for a long time. We ended up with like 400 and something episodes. And then we put that on ice, and recently we resurrected the podcast. And what happened, like with COVID, nobody was doing in-person stuff. So we just recently switched to doing the podcast again and doing everything virtually. But I don't know about you, Russell, but like I find the energy, the connection, the conversation is way better. Like if we were face to face, this would have a totally different feel. So I don't think that can be replaced.
Yep.
So yeah, like I would love to get back into the sit down face to face kind of stuff. Post conference, we're definitely looking at that because I enjoy it. Like I enjoy meeting somebody, sitting down for like an hour and a half conversation. I find you get more stuff that way. But yeah, we'll see. But that's certainly on tap for the next 6 months or so.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, and I'm trying my best to get out. But here's the cool thing: is I think we can supplement it really nice by doing something like we're doing right now. Like, don't get me wrong, I love meeting the people and going out, but if I don't have to haul my backside out to an airport and jump on and go out and fly 4 hours across the country and stuff like that, so you're just more efficient with your time. When you do go out to a conference, you plan like 7 different sit downs, and you bring a travel case of gear with you, and it's fun. It's cool to do both. Really, it's cool to do both.
Yeah, but plus doing the virtual thing, it gives you access to people who otherwise wouldn't be accessible. You've interviewed some really cool people. I have too. And those people, to bring them out would be way too expensive, or even for you to go to them.
Yeah.
Honestly, I literally had a meeting and then ran over here to do this, and then I'll run back and have another meeting. So it definitely works out.
Yeah, and I majority of my coaching calls and people I coach with, honest to goodness, a couple of them are working up on the pipeline up north, and they're on the oil fields, and they take an hour out of their day off of work to come sit in their car for us to go and really dive deep into things. Like that would have never happened before without this technology and stuff that we're doing now. Like, don't get me wrong, we could do telephone, but it does add one more layer to just see the person, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay. So, and I know, like I said, we're going to be mindful of your time because you are running around. And I think I used the analogy before we got talking. You're busier than a one-arm framer hanging doors right now, right? So a little backstory about you, Seth. I know you've probably been doing 1,000 of these things and you're probably tired of telling your backstory, but is there a story that you haven't told about kind of your you getting into the business of things, or maybe a story or a backstory that you haven't told that would be really relevant for people listening here today?
I'm trying to think. I do tell a lot of stories, but I think that the one thing everybody sees me and they think, oh well, real estate was always in the picture. That wasn't the case. I was actually trying to make the NHL as a hockey referee. Believe it or not. So I was down in the States doing that full time, doing some professional and junior hockey down there. And then I realized that, hey, what am I doing? Because I saw guys still following the dream into their early 30s once their window had closed. So I didn't want to end up like those guys. So I came back to Ontario, kept working in the OHL and a minor pro league in the States. And I got my real estate license because I thought selling real estate would work really well with my hockey schedule. I was wrong because most people think selling real estate is easy money. It's not. You're working evenings and weekends and 24/7 if you want to gain some traction. So, but yeah, so I transitioned from hockey into selling real estate. And then from there, I made a whole bunch of different mistakes and then I ended up where I am now. So we can go into all the different mistakes you want. I'm happy to talk about anything. Well,
that's I did not know that you were going down that path of chasing the dream. But here's the thing: is I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that you were on the path of being a high performer at a profession. Even that is tough to do. There's only a select. I don't know how many. How many you would probably know. How many NHL officials are there? Ballpark. Do you know offhand?
Yeah, there's about 90 guys on staff, and I was very fortunate to work with a lot of the guys there right now. Yeah, because we're in that age bracket where they got hired, and so it's pretty cool. But yeah, with hockey, it's a bit, especially officiating. You have to be kind of crazy to do it. You have to feed off the pressure, which I do. I'm one of those personalities. And it was a lot of fun, and it teaches you a lot of life skills. You're dealing with high emotion conflict. You have to make snap decisions. You have to stay calm under pressure. So basically, everything it takes to run a conference, you can learn refereeing hockey.
Wow. So do you watch a hockey game at a different level when you watch it, or can you actually enjoy watching a game, or do you have your officiating jersey on in the back seat?
Yeah, it's kind of like if you coached hockey at a high level, you would be watching the systems. Same thing with officiating. Like it's impossible for me to watch a game as a fan because I'm looking at it through a different lens. Yeah, it's just hockey is forever ruined for me watching it. But it's cool though. Like now I flip on the TV, it's like, oh, I worked with this guy for like 6 years in the OHL. It's kind of cool to see. And then I got Connor McDavid was playing for Erie, so he was amazing. Taylor Hall, Max Domi, like all these great players I got to see on the ice firsthand. So that was pretty cool. I was very fortunate.
Oh, awesome. I did not know that of you. Well, and here's the thing, and I'm going to show my age a little bit here, but I can tell you admit you'd make a really good ref. You have the Carrie Fraser nice head of hair. It's just like the only thing missing is a little bit of chin strap or some mutton side chops on that sucker there. So no, that's fantastic. I appreciate you sharing that. So you were chasing the dream, you were, officiating, and you probably came to the realization, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but you probably came to the realization that you weren't willing to do the work it took to probably get to the show, if you will. And you were probably a peaceful acceptance of that. But real estate maybe took over. So I'm not going to talk about your story. What was the impetus for the transition from NHL referee to real estate for you?
To be very honest, the transition has never really ended. My life dream would have been to make the highest level officiating. Like that is my passion. I would rather do that than anything else in the world. And so I don't think the dream really ever ends. But basically what was happening was, my son was born. And I decided to retire from the OHL and major junior hockey. And my window had closed by then anyway. But there's a certain age bracket where, you're on the radar. When I was younger, things were looking in the right direction. And then it wasn't. Yep. So it is what it is. But I still got to work, national championships. Even last night, I was refereeing the Allen Cup. So that's here in Ontario this year. So I'm still at it on a part-time basis. Yep. I'm doing it more to get some exercise these days.
Good for you.
But yeah. But what happened was I started selling real estate, got my broker's license. I started doing really well with it. I was making what most people would consider a lot of money. But me being a young, naive guy at the time, I had a nice fancy car and I had a house with waterfalls going into a pool. So basically all the commissions coming in were going out just as fast. And I made some very dumb decisions in terms of money. When I should have been house hacking and acquiring real estate, I didn't really know anything. I never grew up with real estate investors in the family. I didn't know anything about that. So I kicked myself because I wasted a lot of opportunity. But eventually one day I realized, hey, listen, I'm spending so much a month, my car payments were ridiculous. And I'm I have nothing left over for all the money I'm earning. I'm you know what? I'm selling this stuff on a daily basis. I should just start acquiring some of these properties. And that's how I got into the single family home investing. Doing single family home, duplex conversion, condo, that kind of thing. And that was the start of the investing journey. And I basically started with no knowledge and I kind of learned as I went.
Wow. When was that you kind of dove in and put your toe into the acquisition side of things?
Ooh, boy. I don't know. I was mid 20s, mid to late 20s. Yeah. I would say. I don't remember what my age was.
So two years ago, you're saying, right? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. I'm almost 40.
I'm teasing. You're looking good though, brother.
Yeah. It was it was a while ago. And it was myself and my partner at the time. And we were acquiring rental properties. And what I should have done, you mentioned your coaching calls. What I should have done is gone out and found a coach who could actually show me the right way to do things, because I made a whole bunch of decisions that were the wrong decisions. And I just didn't really know, right? Like I was reading books. Actually, I read one of your books, like real estate joint ventures. But I just didn't know what I didn't know at the time. So I was kind of like a lot of people, like they get into it and they just kind of stumble along. But if I could go back in time, I would have found a coach like yourself and then just learn from you, because you have already like paved the way and I just had to replicate. And that's what I'm like, the more I'm into it, it's more like it's all systems and frameworks, and all you have to do is model working proven systems and frameworks, and then you too can be successful. Yeah. I didn't realize that at the time.
Well, I'll tell you, don't beat yourself up too much though. You did what a lot of people don't do. You actually shot the puck, right? And you took action, and you learned more by actually diving into the deep end and figuring it out than you ever would have reading a book or watching a YouTube video or listening to podcasts until the cows came home. So, I know we sometimes beat ourselves up over our mistakes, but sometimes those mistakes are the best things that we ever did.
Oh yeah, 100%. I've learned, and actually my mistakes, like I wouldn't be here today if I didn't make the mistakes. What happened with the single family home portfolio was my partner at the time, the relationship broke up. A lot of money disappeared from the bank accounts. The locks got changed on my house, and mortgages started bouncing because all the money was gone. Like it turned into a really, really bad situation. And so basically that went away and I was left rebuilding from scratch. And I think one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of people, and I've gone through it firsthand, is when you already have a bit of a nest egg, you think differently about your next move, right? Because you're always worried about losing the nest egg. Whereas like for me, like when I went down to like literally zero, I had nothing left to lose. So I was like, well, why don't I just think 10 times bigger? Because like, it's not going to hurt me at this point. So that gave me, I think that the freedom and the permission to actually dream a lot bigger and set my sights higher. And if I hadn't have lost everything in that situation, that I don't think I would be doing the stuff I'm doing today. So, there's pros and cons. Like, sure, it was very expensive and it hurt a lot, but today I'm much stronger for it, for sure.
Holy macaroni. Hang on. First and foremost, man, you're bringing the fire here, Seth. It's like when fire comes, obviously bombs get dropped here.
That's awesome.
Let's unpack that for a second, because here's one of the biggest fears that a lot of people, like I've worked with people for almost 25 years now and helping them, and including myself and lots of, people investing in real estate. One of the biggest fears that people have is potentially losing everything, right? And we're now talking with somebody who with all intents and purposes, you did lose everything. As I'm not making it over dramatic of the words you just used, and you've I've committed to rebuild it bigger and better than it was. So, what advice do you give to people when people sit there and go, "Geez, I'm a little fearful that I could potentially lose this all or lose it all"? Like, what would be the best lessons you would give to somebody? Like, obviously, you don't want anybody to go through as much pain as you went through, right? But no. To you, it probably happened for you, not to you, I would imagine.
Yeah, like it was the worst time of my life, like 100%.
Yeah.
It was absolutely the worst time of my life. But I think it, and while you're in it, it sucks a lot. But once you actually get through to the other side, you can look back and say, you know what? Like, it sucked, but it didn't crush me.
Yep.
And I think that's where the power is. Because now, I know I've gone through it once and survived. If I have to go through it again, I know what's coming this time. So it's almost easier. And there's lots of examples in real estate. Like, Rod Khleif is a good example. He lost a lot of money. In 2008, lost his mansion, and now he has a better mansion looking across the lake at his old place. So there's so many stories of that in business where, wrong decisions, whatever it is, you hit that rock bottom, but then you use it to bounce up. But I think for me, I remember what happened. So I was locked out of the house, like all the money was gone. It was so bad. And I cried for a couple days. And then the first thing I decided to was, okay, well, what am I what's the one thing I have to do to actually like start figuring stuff out? And the very first thing I did was started a real estate podcast. That was the first thing I did. And that was kind of the start of the rebuild. And it's funny because like the podcast turned into a TV show. And that gave me the confidence to start doing like YouTube. And then, the podcast got me connected with a whole bunch of speakers. And then I had them speak at the first conference. And then I've been able to meet a lot of people and partner with them on cool, like multifamily projects. So like it all, like everything that's happened since started with that decision to start the podcast, because I knew I needed to do something. And the podcast just seemed to be like the right fit at the time. So, yeah. So like, when you're down in the dumps, it's like, the way I approach it now, even now, like when we're encountering pretty sticky situations, is like, okay, thinking long-term is too stressful because it's going to overwhelm you. So like, what's like step number one? Like, what's the very first thing I have to do? And that's how I try and think about it. And it makes it a lot more focused rather than, the whole stressful situation of everything's like falling apart.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for sharing that. That's, I did not know that.
Yeah.
And it's funny, and here's the romance of a lot of this kind of stuff. And I do want to unpack this a little bit more. And I hope I'm not opening old wounds here in a second. But
no. It's all good. It's part of the therapy to talk about.
Yes. Well, you hit the nail on the head. But here's the thing: is everybody thinks when all that happens and the shit hits the fan and then all of a sudden the shit goes through the fan is usually the worst part of it. And then all of a sudden you hit the bottom and then instantly you bounce back up. No, typically the way is that you hit the rock bottom and then you get dragged along the bottom for a long period of time and you get stuck and you get in your own head and you're beating the crap out of yourself and it's getting very dark up here and you don't ever forgive yourself for mistakes that you made and all that kind of stuff. Well, so I understand your process was to step up and serve, meaning create a podcast, help others, start talking about this moving forward. Did you talk a lot about it while you were in it, or now do you just talk about it now that you've kind of gotten through it?
I would say the latter.
Yeah.
It's once you're through it, it's easier to talk about.
Yeah, it's easier to talk about it from the wounds, not when you're bleeding. I mean, from the scars, not from the wounds, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I needed to cauterize that wound just to survive. But yeah, like that was really only like maybe 4.5 years ago. So it's interesting. I'm somebody who always keeps looking forward because I always want to do better and better. But it is like once in a while you have to stop and smell the roses and kind of say, hey, listen, like 4.5 years ago, you literally had nothing and your life had fallen apart. And now, fast forward, it didn't happen overnight. But now that I feel I'm living to more of my full potential, because before with what I was doing, I always felt like I could do more. I had more in me, but I just didn't have a conduit with which to do it. So now I've created that conduit.
Did you ever fall into the trap of, beating yourself up and all that kind of, and second guessing yourself, and your confidence took a hit? And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to understand this because here's the thing: is that's what I do when I've created a big giant old pile of poo and I've made a mess and I've screwed up, and it's just, I could tell horror stories, and which I have. If anybody's listening to my podcast, you understand. But the biggest problem I have is I have a hard time forgiving myself of that. What was the process you went through?
I don't have a process because I still suck at doing that. I am the absolute worst. I like, everybody's their own harshest critic, and I take that to the nth degree. And I think that's a characteristic, because I've got a lot of friends who are very high performance people, and they're all kind of the same. So I think that just comes with the territory of trying to do really cool things and demanding excellence of yourself. But yeah, I think there has to be a healthier way to do it, because the way I do it is probably not the best way. Well, I'm not sure about you, but I'm so hard on myself.
Well, Yeah, and that's what high performers do. But I'll also give you some credit from the outside looking in. And I don't know all the details, but I'm on the outside looking in. You could have had a choice when you're at that rock bottom, being drug along the rock bottom. You could have had a choice of to refer to booze and all that kind of stuff and completely recluse. But your choice was to serve and to dive back in again and go full steam. And is that how you kind of got your swag back a little bit at that time?
Yeah, and I think it helped because I'd always had once as I started acquiring single family properties. And then I discovered multifamily. I was like, you know what? Like this makes a whole lot of sense, right? Because I worked out, hey, what would it take to hit like a big real estate goal? And I'd have to own like 1,000 houses. So I was like, there's no way. So I started looking for other opportunities. That was right when my son was born. So like I blame him because I'm holding this little baby for the first time, and then all of a sudden I wanted like do a whole lot more for my son, and then I discovered apartments, and then everything fell apart. So I had that dream, that goal of, you know what, like this is something I really want to do. So when I had the opportunity, the great reset, when I had the opportunity to start focusing on that, I think that was a big positive because I had that goal in mind. I had that desire to move into a space that I had always wanted to move into. That's a really like long answer to the question, but like it certainly helped having some sort of. The goalpost kept moving, and I didn't really know where it was, but like there was some sort of goalpost somewhere in the future.
Yeah. Now here's the thing is, and I'm trying to get the recipe of the comeback and stuff like that. Sometimes the recipe is, honest to goodness, is you have no options. You have no choice. And it's day by day. And honestly, the same conversation I had with somebody the other day was looking at your baby in your arms, and you're just going, holy shit, I have a big giant responsibility here. Pardon I'm swearing here a little bit, but time to stop effing around and get your shit together, right? And you just take one day at a time, really.
And I'm a big, and again, like this is like the extreme side of my personality. Yep. I'm a huge fan of Caesar burning the boats when he landed in Britannia. So I everything I do, I have that burn the boats mentality because you're never 100% committed unless like if you have an out. So with everything I do, there's no out. Like I cut the cord, I burn the boats, and I force myself because I think a lot of it, you have to have the confidence that even though you don't know exactly how you're going to make it happen, you have to have the confidence that you will figure it out. Yep. Like it's always going to be painful because the pain comes from like expanding your mind and learning new skills and getting uncomfortable. But yeah, like burning the boats and having no option, there is no substitute for that because that demands performance because if you don't perform, you're toast.
Wow.
So like the conference is a perfect example. Yeah. Like there was no out, middle of COVID, started conference, cut the cord, like burned the boats. Like I had to make it happen or else I was toast. And with the other stuff we're doing right now, like we have big goals and we're hitting them because I take that approach with things.
Holy crap. But, I don't want to gloss over this because, everybody, it's quite pedestrian. Everyone says, oh, burn the boats. It's a cute meme. It's a fun story, stuff like that. Just imagine burning the boats when your confidence is in the gutter and you've just lost everything all at the same time. It's just like honest to goodness, you must have had some hard days getting out of bed in the morning with some of this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Not going to lie. Yeah. Like, it was pretty shitty. Yeah. It was pretty shitty. But you have to think like, to use like a hockey analogy, it's like, let's say you're the referee and then you've got a bench clearing brawl. You just got to deal with it. So they're not going back to the bench. So you're stuck in it. Might as well go along for the ride. Yeah.
Or a coach down the hallway is yelling at you to tell you to eat another donut or something, eh?
Exactly.
Sorry. Old hockey guys might understand that reference. Or right?
Yeah.
Who was that? Schoenfeld, wasn't it?
Don Koharski.
John Koharski.
Yes. With Don Koharski was the referee. And you know what? Funny.
It was Schoenfeld, wasn't it? The coach?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And funny enough, Coho, Don Koharski, took that to heart and actually lost some weight because of that comment. So he turned that into a positive.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Okay, so before we talk about the conference, which is the topic du jour, and you're full on with that. So where are you? Like when we chatted a couple years ago, it would have been, I think it was 2019. I think it was pre-COVID, or maybe it was 2018 even.
Yeah,
might have been one of those 2 years. You were doing a lot of stuff in the States. Are you still investing in the States? Are you still buying there? Where are you investing, and what are you recommending for people right now?
Yeah, so for myself, like I prefer the U.S. markets. That's where I feel there's a lot of growth potential. So. With our current project, we're focusing on the southeastern U.S., the Sun Belt areas, predominantly Florida, and then into Texas. That's our focus there. The market drivers are so strong. The policy is, I feel, advantageous in terms of where things are going there versus other parts of the country. So that's my focus, and so my goal is to help Canadians efficiently and profitably invest in U.S. multifamily real estate.
Yeah.
Because there's, you found this too, probably online. When we look up U.S. real estate investing, there's a lot of content out there for Americans, which is great. But we have something called the CRA, and CRA does not play well with some things that Americans do. So we have to have very different ways of doing things as Canadians investing in the U.S. So we're trying to make it the most efficient, easy way to do it while staying compliant, so you're not in a double taxation issue or anything like that.
Yeah. And gang, I don't advocate any one area. I advocate what makes the most amount of sense for you. And the people that I do talk to that are investing in the States, make sure you have good, solid advice, good, solid people that are doing it. But it is important that you know the areas. And you touched on having places that have good economic drivers, good policy, and good population and population growth. And right now, I fully endorse that whole area, almost like Texas, Nashville, Florida, that little horseshoe there as well. I have some friends that are investing in those areas, and they're doing very well. Like it's shocking some of the numbers that I'm seeing with that.
Yeah. But don't get me wrong. Like I've got friends who are crushing it doing multifamily in Canada and in other markets. It's just for me, based on my criteria and the portfolio I'm looking to build, that I felt that was the best fit for me. And there is a lot of interest in U.S. multifamily. So I think I share those sentiments with a lot of Canadians, and which is why we're doing what we're doing. Yep.
And do you still broker deals? Do you still represent people as an agent, or have you or has that kind of taken a back seat?
No, we talked about burning the boats.
Yes.
So selling real estate, like that was earning a decent income for me. But you know what we're doing now is a full-time gig, and so I had to cut the cord. And, it is very uncomfortable because now you have a payroll, like with this conference, like no joke, we have people working all year, full time. You have like a whole team. There's like 20 people on the team.
Yeah.
So when you get into payroll situations, it's uncomfortable, like cutting the cord, but you have to do it because like what I'm doing now would not happen if I wasn't full-time and fully focused.
Wow. And no joke here, Seth, you probably have had one of the longest marketing cycles I've ever seen on things. Like and then that's good. That's a compliment. I'm not there that any way, shape or form. Most people sit there, let's throw a conference together in the next month or 6 weeks out. You're planning these suckers out for a year at minimum. Like your first one, you were promoting it when nobody was talking about conferences, and you were promoting it in the height of COVID, and thank goodness the timing kind of aligned, because your conference a year ago was kind of that coming out party for the real estate investment community to come together after the hibernation of COVID, and everybody came together, and we're all sitting there we're all walking up to each other, hi, I don't know how to say hello anymore. Do I hug? What do we do? Do we fist bump? Do we knuckles? What do we do? So I'm just giving you some huge props that you took a big chance and a big risk, and you created something pretty special, my friend.
Yeah, it was a big risk. And quite honestly, like it was, the US had opened up a lot sooner than we did here in Canada. And we were about 45 days out, I think, when the lockdown lifted. So it was really tight. I was shitting bricks behind the scenes because you've paid out all this money for this conference, and if the government might keep things shut down, it was going to be really, really bad. But we figured it out. We made it work, and I think we created a really unique event and experience that we haven't really seen here in Canada, and now we're just like 10xing it. So
and just as a perspective, gang, and we'll get into talking a little bit. I would like to follow up with you on a couple things. I'd love to talk a little bit about U.S. investing when we have a little bit more time, and it's not conference when you're putting on a conference. And I'd also like to have a conversation with you post conference that you can then decompress, and you can not be in run mode. You can actually reflect upon things, and you can have a deeper conversation with that. But here's the thing, gang. The reality of the conference business is everybody sits there and looks, 3,000 people in a room. Wow, he must be making so much money. No, they're typically break even at best. And not only that, everybody has their hand out in advance. You have to put up all the money in advance before you ever have one ticket sale in advance. So try that on for a business model for a little bit.
Yeah, I would not. It is a very ugly business model. And if I knew, and this is I walked into this with my eyes shut because I never run events or conferences before. I just thought of the big crazy idea of running this conference.
Yep.
If I would have known, I probably would never have got into it because it is such an ugly model. And even though we're bringing all these people in, the event does not make money.
Yeah.
And then you've got you bring in all these top speakers, you have the best venue, all this kind of stuff. And then, it's, you know what I'm talking about. It's an ugly business. But on the other hand, I would say having a platform, whether it's a podcast, a TV show, YouTube channel, that platform is your value to the marketplace. So, did I have the podcast? Yeah. Do I have a small growing YouTube channel? Yes. But I think the conference has developed into a very powerful platform for me. And it makes me valuable in the marketplace. And it certainly makes me a person who is known at least to a decent amount of people. So it's worth the pain, especially in the long run, just thinking from a business perspective.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's no fun.
It's truly it chalk it up to ignorance is bliss at the beginning, and knowing what you know now, you might have second guess burning the boat at the same time. But here's the thing: is on the other side, no different than the story you shared earlier, potentially losing everything. On the other side, in 5-10 years from now, you might just say that risk that I took to put on those events and all that stress I did was the best business decision I made. But you can't tell that when you're in it. You can only tell it when you're through it and you 10 years down the road type of thing.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I already know doing this is the best thing I've ever done in business.
Yeah.
I already know.
Yeah.
Like the number of people who have approached me to, buy into the who want to it's just like all the signs are there that I'm on to something like really special.
Yep.
So I know it's the best thing I've done.
Nice.
It's just, I gotta deal with my better half being like, you're crazy for running this again next year. So,
well, are you next year going to commit again?
I got to talk with the wife first, future wife first. But we've put so much effort and time, and we've built a good community. It only makes sense to do it. And we've got some cool announcements coming up at the conference for next year. But it's like you look at it, you take a big deep breath, and you're like, yeah, okay, let's do it again.
Yeah, good. Well, we're going to get to it in a second, but it's funny, as you just said that, I just shot a video this week. I grew up in small town Saskatchewan, and we had well water. Like, you honestly had to go pump. You had to go pump your water.
Okay, yeah.
And the analogy I used in that video was, honestly, you have to really work really hard. You have to prime the pump. And once the pump starts flowing the water, you don't have to work as hard. But here's the thing is, as soon as you stop it, the water stops. And then the other challenge part is if you actually don't put a bucket on the end of it too, it's all that work for naught, all at the same time too, right?
Yeah, like Russell Brunson has a good example. So Arsenio Hall had a talk show, and really well-known talk show. And he everybody called him. He knew everybody. Everybody would answer his calls. As soon as he stopped doing the talk show, Mr. Hall was like, nobody's returning my calls anymore because his value to the marketplace had evaporated.
Yep.
So I think that's a really good lesson to anybody with a podcast or YouTube channel, whatever it is, some thought leadership platform. You have to keep your platform.
Yeah.
Or else you have no value anymore.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing to unpack. So I 100% agree you have to keep your platform. But at the same time, I would believe while you're building out that platform and you are putting on those events, it'll quickly determine who is a relationship with you and who's a transaction with you. Like you'll very quickly, once you stop your event or stop your platform, the transactional people will just go on to the next place. But the relationship people will be the ones that where the biggest value will come long-term for you at the same time.
Yeah, no, I think you absolutely nailed it. Though, the nature of the beast in any type of business, you'll have your transactional type of relationships. Like you have to have a mix of both. And I see it for what it is. Like I've got a great platform. People want to take advantage of it for their own business, and I welcome that because that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we've got big goals for it. Like in 4 more years, we want to have 10,000 people at the event. So we're really trying to make it North America's premier real estate event. So it's already Canada's premier event. We want to go North American with it.
So you said a little while ago, well, I still have to talk to my future wife about doing it again, and you're already talking. So you're a visionary, you're a high performer. I already know that you're going to accomplish this. You already, it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be without its challenges, and not going to be out with burning a bigger boat down the road. But I 100% foresee you doing this, my friend. But as an FYI, now. Here's the thing, and we'll talk about the conference here in 1 second, but here's my take on conferences in general, in many respects. I encourage people to go to these things. I encourage people all the time, because think about this for a second. Somebody has taken a year of their life and millions, like we're not talking tens of thousands, we're talking millions of dollars in capital to put on an event that's going to attract 3,000 people of like mind to one place at one time. And all you have to do is buy a ticket or sponsorship package or a VIP experience, and all you have to do is buy a ticket, and you get to connect with all those people all at the same time. So why wouldn't somebody, especially if you're interested in real estate and interested in multifamily, why wouldn't you go to a conference like this?
Yeah, 100%. Like I know what it takes to get somebody like Grant Cardone in the building. I know what it takes to get somebody like Alex Rodriguez in the building. Like Alex has like 15,000 units in his real estate portfolio. Like we're having, we have to worry about parking private jets. Like that's an issue we are dealing with right now.
Yeah.
Where to put these jets? Like just an hour of their time, and for a small fraction. Like, you look at the lineup we have, like we've got Janelle Page, like Western Wealth, largest foreign multifamily investor into the US. Like, think of all the experience there and all the stories and just for a fraction of the cost of like 1 hour of the time, like you have exposure to all of that.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, for myself, like I'm a big fan. Like I love, like I spend so much money on, education and like masterminds and like courses, and like even though I've got my course, like you've got your course, like I blow so much money. I shouldn't say blow, but I invest so much money in this stuff because I see so much value in it. And I think that's the only way you learn, because like I want to constantly challenge the way I'm thinking about things. And there's no better way to do that than coming to a conference, because you're going to meet, there's always a bigger fish.
Yeah.
So if you, like, good example, we had a guy come to the conference last year. He thought he was done. In fact, like he thought he was set for life. And he comes to the conference and he realizes, hey, listen, like I haven't really done as much as these other people. So he's basically 3x his portfolio. He sent me an email a couple months ago. He's 3x his portfolio since coming to last year's conference because it changed how he thought about investing in his portfolio. So now he's benefited, his family's benefited, his children are definitely benefiting just from the change in mindset and how he looked at the landscape of real estate investing. So, if you're somebody, like if you're new, it's great, because you're going to be able to see what other people are doing, and it's going to open your eyes to the possibilities. It's kind of like when I first started, I didn't know what was possible. Now I do. That will open up your eyes. But if you're already experienced or going along the path, you're going to be meeting some much bigger fish, and you're going to be able to learn from them and maybe adjust your course based on something you're seeing or something you learn, a different way of doing things that you just don't know about because you're in your own little bubble.
Yeah. Just even seeing the inspiration and knowing what's possible is worth the price of attendance right there. Now, one last thing I'm going to say before we do, I'm going to show you a website here in a second, is, gang, the best way to get value out of a conference like this is to go there without an expectation that you're going to shark the room and get business and hand out flyers or paper the cars in the parking lot or all that kind of.
Don't get me started on the people who flyer the cars.
Yeah. So gang, don't do that. Please. That's just low. First and foremost, go to a conference like this with the intention of contributing, no different than Seth talked about when he needed to contribute by putting out a podcast and building out a platform. Contribute to others, connect with others, build lifelong relationships with others. That's where the biggest value will come from this. Okay, enough talking. We've been teasing all about this. You've got and when we're recording it, be under 30 days, so under a month from doing this. You got really high quality materials, high quality website there, my friend. Grant Cardone, Alex Rodriguez are coming as the guest. Do you have any fun stories that you're allowed to share with everybody about kind of either the negotiations or part of that of bringing them to Toronto? The
cool thing last year, we had Kevin O'Leary on at the conference, and he was actually he has this Hebrew persona, and he's polarizing, consummate professional. He was amazing. His team was great to work with. And so when we got in touch with Grant, I was this was really cool for me from a personal standpoint. Our conference was already on their radar for this year. So they had seen what we did last year because it's within their wheelhouse. And, when we're talking initially, they're like, oh yeah, we know about your conference. We want to be a part of it. So that was kind of validation. And, it's kind of cool because we're small fish, and here's this big operation. And they're like, yeah, we know about what you're doing.
Wow.
So that was neat. And Grant's team has been exceptional to work with. And, Grant is another polarizing figure, but they've been nothing but very generous. And, talk about events. They've run 3 events in one day. They filled Marlins Stadium. So they've got events to a T. And they've been very generous with how they've operated. So can't say enough good stuff.
Wow, that's crazy. Now, just gang, if you scroll down on the page, first of all, the website, multifamilyconference.ca is where everybody goes to check it out. There's that handsome devil over here on the far right, Seth Ferguson, Janet LePage. I'm good friends with Dave Steele with Western Wealth Capital.
Yeah.
Amazing success story out here in Vancouver, and their portfolio is crazy down in the States. Wonderful speakers, who's who of really what's going on out in the marketplace, and a very affordable investment to get into the package, into the conference as well here, my friend. How are you doing for ticket sales at the moment?
We are rocking and rolling.
Yeah.
VIP. So basically, I've actually given up my friends and family VIP seats that I reserved because we basically ran out of VIP seats. So that is by far the most popular section. And we've got some really cool people in VIP. We've got people who are developing 1,600 acres in VIP. There's some really cool people in the VIP spot. And we've created it. Last year, people really liked the networking. So we've got, a private VIP dinner. We've got a CN Tower networking party for the VIP. So we're trying to make it the coolest experience, but also the most intimate, so you can actually have those real conversations with people.
Yep.
The most the most common comments we got last year were, number one, the high quality of our speakers, and then number two was the quality of the attendee and the networking. My phone blew up with people just telling me how much they enjoyed it.
Nice. Well, first and foremost, gang, I'm going to be there. I know that it might not matter to anybody, but I'm coming out, and I actually am planning. I'm making a trip across the country, stopping in Edmonton on the way back, check out some projects, doing some speaking out there. I'm sorry to tell you, but I'm not going to tell my wife, but I'm lining up some golf while I'm out there too. Hopefully the end of May, it's going to be the courses will be all open. When are the dates? And do you have anything that maybe we can offer to my listeners, and maybe a little discount code or something like that, or maybe give somebody a little, there's no reason why you shouldn't come, a little spiel here.
Yeah, for sure. So we definitely do have something special for your listeners, which is great. But yeah, I think one of the things with this conference is I wanted to make it accessible to both beginners, so people interested in getting into apartments, and then also seasoned operators and professionals. And one of the ways we're introducing beginners to the conference this year is we're hosting a special workshop on the Friday. And it's just for beginners, and we're covering all the foundational, like the core material that you need. So that way, when you're listening to Janet, Brad Sumrock, Grant Cardone on stage during the main conference, you actually can get more out of it because you'll have that foundation. So it's myself and a bunch of my friends hosting the workshop on the Friday. So that's actually really popular, and we're almost sold out because we have a capacity limit based on the room size. But yeah, so in terms of a little something special, we do have a 10% off discount code on Elite and Platinum tickets. So just use code RUSTY, RUSTY, and that'll save you 10% off your ticket price. But seriously, hurry. Platinum, I think we're 80% sold out of Platinum right now. VIP, we have a handful left. And then Elite, if you want to do the workshop, it's we're nearing capacity. So everybody, as events, Russell, everybody waits until the last minute. But last year we sold out for VIP and Platinum, and this year we're basically there. So don't wait, because we can't make more seats. It is a capacity issue. Yeah.
Now I know that ain't a pitch, because it's reality. There is only so many seats in a building. And I always get a joke of, we freed up more seats for the virtual event that we're just about to have. Okay, I got it. Marketing talk.
But you know what? Speaking about virtual events, I'm a big believer that the real value is being there in person, because that's where the true connections happen. So we do not have a virtual ticket. And we will not have a virtual ticket. I guess I'm a young, old school kind of guy. But I've always felt that the benefit is showing up in the room. So that is our model. You're showing up in the room.
Nice. Well, gang, I strongly encourage you to check out that event. Let's put it this way. There are so many reasons to, and honest to goodness, there should be no reasons not to. Really, if you're in the business, if you're a real estate investor and you want to get in the same room, you buy a seat at the table. This is one of the easiest ways you can do it, to be brutally honest. Seth, do you have 5 minutes? Can I ask you one final question before we sign off, or do you have to run? Because you got the 15-minute time blocks. I just want to make sure I'm not sure I'm stepping on anybody's toes there, because I don't want your team to be yelling at me.
No, you know what? She left a 15-minute buffer, so I'm good for another 15.
Okay. Whew. Well, I won't take all of it. Usually one of the last questions I always like to leave off with is a little bit of inspiration for people. And you've told a wonderful story of literally losing it all, hitting rock bottom, being drug along the bottom of rock bottom, and then building it up to something that's so inspiring and incredible within 4.5 years, under 5 years. That's amazing. So if somebody's sitting here and they're listening to this, or they're watching this and they're feeling stuck, maybe they're just not sure next steps, or they're not sure what to do, and they're not sure about those next steps, what would be some of Seth's wisdom to share with somebody that's just feeling a little stuck right now?
I'm going to share something I should have done 15 years ago, and I didn't. And I think I swear it cost me 10 years. What I failed to do when I first started investing was I didn't think about the life I wanted to build and what I wanted my life to look like 10 years into the future. Like I use the road map analogy. Like if you're driving from Florida to Seattle, you need a map to get there. If you don't have a map, you have no idea. Like you'll end up in Vegas and then you'll just end up partying.
Yep.
The same thing happens with real estate. Like a good example. There's a guy, his life goal is to run his real estate portfolio from a pub in Ireland because he loves drinking Guinness. So every single decision he makes will have that in mind. So how he runs his management, how he organizes things, like his staffing, everything is geared towards running his portfolio from a pub in Ireland. If you don't have that vision, if you're kind of stuck, like what I found is whenever I feel stuck and I'm like, I don't know what to do, it's because my vision isn't clear enough. Like where I'm heading isn't clear. So if you're feeling stuck right now, take some time. Like it doesn't happen in a day. Like you have to, like I have a whole exercise I run people through and it takes, a week or two to actually do it the right way. But you really have to think about everything you want to have your life look like, what it feels like, what you're doing, what's important to you, who you're hanging out with. And once you figure that out, it's a lot easier to dial in and be like, okay, well, now I can work backwards and it's just math at that point. And then you can break down specific actions. And then step one becomes a whole lot clearer once you know exactly where you're going.
Oh, wow. Fantastic, brother. So gang, once again, the country's largest real estate conference is coming up, multifamily, if you're interested. And I guarantee a fire is going to be dropped. There's going to be lots of fire and lots of bombs being dropped there, my friend. So,
yeah, we got extra fire on the stage this year because my son said we didn't have enough last year.
Okay.
So we added some extra fire.
So you hired Kiss, the band Kiss's pyrotechnic team to light it all up, eh? Right?
That's right. I'll have the tongue out and everything.
No makeup though, right? Or you're going to have full makeup?
No makeup.
Okay, good. Well, Seth, honored and thank you for your gracious hour that you were able to share here. I know how super crazy busy you are, and for you to share this hour is I'm blessed and I'm honored and I'm just very grateful. So I'm grateful for you, and also grateful for your time. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Okay, gang. Make sure you get a ticket. It's multifamilyconference.ca and use the coupon code RUSTY, RUSTY, and you can get 10% off. So you can thank me later. If you see me at the event and we're walking around and you heard it on this podcast, come up and let's have a coffee together. Love to check and I'd love to see you out there. All right, gang. Bye for now. Boom! If you'd like to see a few more videos like this, only a couple simple next steps from here. Number one, subscribe. There will be a link right down here to hit that subscribe button. Make sure you don't miss an upcoming episode. And over here will be a hand-picked playlist and a video for you to watch to continue your journey forward. All right, let's go!